Get it out. Get it out. Pull it out. Yeah.
It'll just come through there.
Still not gone.
I know. How do I do it? It's like sticky
You
tape.
got it, you can
You
do
can
it.
do it, girl.
Oh, okay. Just talk amongst yourselves. How exciting that we're all here for Grace. Her very first show, we did it on Thursday night up at Tweed. I'm going to just use my teeth.
It's on this far, don't stop. Keep going.
Yeah.
Stop.
Sorry, Gracie, I'll stick that back on for you. Hi, everyone. Glad we got that out of the way. We've got sticky tape now. I'm so excited for Grace. We did the show on Thursday night and she crushed it. You're going to love it. It's her first show. I'm very proud of her. So who here already knows Grace? Most people. Is there family here? Yeah. I actually knew that because I met you earlier. Grace's brother's here with his partner. Which is great because that shit wears off. I know I've been doing comedy for 7 years now, about the same time as Gracie, and first of all, your family and friends, they all come and you buy them dinner and drinks, and now, recently I live in Melbourne now, and I asked my partner, I said, I'm going to do a gig, do you want to come? We'll have dinner and drinks, and he's like, oh, I've got to water the lawn. And it'd been raining for like 3 weeks. And then my daughter, she lives in the CBD, and I was basically doing a gig in this nightclub across the road from her. It wasn't even a road, it's kind of like a lane. And I'm like, hey, I'm just doing 10 minutes over the lane. Do you want to come? I'll buy you dinner, I'll get you drinks. And she said, oh, nah. It's a bit of an effort. And I said, is it? Is it a bit of an effort? I said, bringing you and your brother up on your own, that was a bit of an effort. Thanks, Vanessa. I know that laugh anywhere. Actually, giving birth to you were like huge, 10 pound 6, that was a bit of an effort. I'm driving around Melbourne in the outskirts, picking up stuff from you from Marketplace because you don't have a car, and driving the city and lugging it up your stairs to your apartment. A bit of an effort. It's fine, just relax, stay home, don't worry. And then she went to Japan for a holiday, and she rang me from Japan. She said, Mum, can you go to my apartment? You've got my key, because the real estate's coming to do a rental inspection, and can you get the pot out of my pantry? And I'm like, they're not going to look in your pantry. And she's like, they will, and we'll get kicked out. And, oh, that's me. They will, and we'll get kicked out. And so I did, as mothers do. I went in and I got the pot, and no. Anyway, I picked her up. They got back from Japan, and of course I drove to the airport. They could have got the Sky Bus, but no. I picked them up from the airport, her and her flatmate. She said, hey, have you got my pot? And I said, no. I smoked it. Thanks. That's okay. Was that you, Vanessa? Thanks. I said, I had to drive in the city, and I had to find a park and pay for a park and get up your flights of stairs and deal with your creepy neighbour. So it was pretty stressful. It was a bit of an effort. So I smoked it. But thank you. But I love to smoke pot, but I can't because I just get the munchies straight away. And I got type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all the things, a fatty liver. I just, straight away, I just want to eat. And it's quite specific. Chicken crimpies, sweet and salty popcorn, Milo and ice cream and clinkers. And you've got to keep eating the clinkers till you get a pink one. And then when you get a pink one, you've got to see how many pink ones you get. So it's actually healthier for me to take hard drugs. But I've never tried cocaine because the one time I was going to try it, it was like 1993. My friends and I, we pooled all our resources, and we were at the big day out in Sydney, and we're outside, and it was my first time. Some of them had done it before, and I was ready to go. And basically this big gust of wind just basically came and blew all our blow. Yeah. So we were traumatised, it was a lot of money for us in 1993. So I've never been able to do it since. You know, the closest I get to anything that resembles cocaine is my collagen protein powder. I do have 2 children, and they cannot be more different than each other. There's my daughter. She wears black. She works in IT. She smokes weed and lives in the dark. And there's my son. He wears white. He works out. He takes peptides and lives on the bright lights of the Gold Coast. I like to visit him on the Gold Coast because he lives across the road from the beach. No, he's nice. He's lovely. He's just a bit up himself. He's fine. That is nice. But I noticed when I was staying with him this time, I was up doing the show with Grace, I stayed with him for a couple of nights up in Palm Beach, and I noticed he had a lot of really expensive skin products in his bathroom. And then he had a go at me for using too much toilet paper. Smiled and I thought, oh, pretty boy, you should see how much of your expensive skin products I am smothering over this naked body of mine. I think it's official now. I think I am officially old now. I kind of knew, like, it's been creeping up on me. It's like today I was like really getting into Paradise FM. and every now and then, for no reason at all, I'll just choke on my own spit. Yeah, I can't see, but I can tell. And more often than not, I almost and sometimes do shit my pants. So I kind of knew. But then I got on this tram in Melbourne one day, and it was like this really hot heatwave day, and I was all puffy and sweaty, and I got on, there was nowhere to sit, and this lovely woman, she just smiled at me, and she got up off her seat and she said, would you like my seat? And so I sat down and I just immediately burst into tears. And she said, what's wrong? And I said, well, it's official, like, no one's ever given up their seat for me before, you know, I'm officially old. And she said, no, I didn't think you were old. I thought you were pregnant. Excellent. And this little kid came up to me. He was about 3 or 4, and he was very sweet. And he gently touched my belly, and he looked up, and he sincerely said, are you having a baby? And I said, no, just a few too many clinkers. And he said, but why does it go like this? And I said, well, why are you so short? And his little bottom lip started to quiver, and I said, you know Santa's not real. Anyway, he really burst into tears then, and I said, what's wrong now, Stumps? And he said, you're just so mean, Grandma. Well, I got married recently. Thank you. Tweethead's nothing. They didn't care. Thank you. It's not for everyone, but I did get married. It's actually, we just had our first wedding anniversary, but it goes really quick, so it felt recent. It was very romantic when my partner proposed. We were walking the dog on the beach, and he got down on one knee, and well, looking back, I think his knee might have just given way. So I said yes straight away, because I thought, well, the odds are in our favour, you know, and less time until death us do part. But when I met him, he was living the van life, as in homeless. Yeah, and I met him the old-fashioned way, stalking. Yeah, I stalked him for about 5 months after spotting him in a public toilet, and he was washing his undies in the sink, and I was like, wow, any guy that does his own washing, that's pretty sexy, I reckon. But even when you're not married and when you're an older couple, people just assume you're married. So we have a dog, her name is Molly, and every morning Molly wakes us up at 5 o'clock, and whoever's not doing the best impersonation of pretending to be asleep gets up and takes her for a walk. And this one morning it was me, it was just a terrible performance, and I got up and straight away my left eye was hurting and I had a headache and I was dizzy and I was like, oh my God, I'm having a stroke or an aneurysm or cancer. I mean, that's what you do when you're old. You think you're having one of those. So I woke my partner up and I said, you've got to take me to the hospital. So he drove me straight down to emergency, and they took one look at me and went, oh my God, she's old. She's having a stroke or an aneurysm or cancer. So they put me in the fast track. And I was in the fast track and this one nurse just kept saying to me, so you're just lying there and you got up and your eye was hurting. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, so you're just lying there, not doing anything. You got up and your eye was hurting. I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking, well, that's great. She's doing a DV check. And she's like, you're just lying there, absolutely nothing going on. You got up and your eye was hurting. And I'm like, yes. And my partner was standing right next to me, and she leaned in so he couldn't hear, and she whispered in my ear and she said, were you and hubby having sex? Because sometimes people come in here, they've had such vigorous sex, the capillaries are popping out of their eyeballs. I said, calm down. It's not his fucking birthday. I said, it's 5 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, my sex is not that vigorous and these eyes are clamped shut, there is no room for popping of capillaries. Anyway, they did some more tests, just so you know, because, you know, just so you don't worry about me. I know tragedy plus time makes comedy, but I was fine. They said you've scratched your eyeball in your sleep, as you do. So they sent me home with eye ointment and curiosity, and I googled it. And it's true, like, vigorous orgasms can cause blindness. It's true. So our Sunday school teachers and grandparents were correct. Too much of this can cause blindness. So. It's okay, don't worry, it's only temporary. So I think when you weigh it all up, it's probably worth the risk. I'm staying with my mum at the moment in Ballina, where I grew up. Is that I guess that's just for a couple of nights. Is that fun? And she couldn't make it tonight. She's not well. Well, we told her she couldn't because she's coughing and she's not allowed to cough. But she's great. And because I live in Melbourne, we talk a lot on the phone. And well, actually, she talks a lot on the phone, but it's fascinating, you know, hearing about all these people I don't know and what's wrong with their children and their mental problems and their medical conditions and their children's children, all these people, it's amazing. And the other day she talked for about 40 minutes straight without drawing breath, and she said, thanks for the talk, and hung up. And then she messaged my siblings and I in a group text, because she loves a group text. She said, great news, I've got brand new hearing aids. I'm like, great news for her. Like, you actually have to let the other person talk in order to hear them. But she doesn't hear everything properly. So I said to her on the phone one day, Mum, I've seen this really great show. It's very funny. It's about an older female comedian, so it's obviously hilarious. And it's called Hacks. And she's like, what is it? And I said, Hacks. Watch it. There's like 3 C's. It's Hacks. Okay, I'll write it down. Hacks. Text it to me. And then I rang her, I said, did you watch Hacks? And she goes, oh, Lisa, we saw that years ago, that woman traipsing across Australia with the camels. So she'd watched Tracks again. But she does get her words wrong. Like the other day she said, we couldn't get a taxi, so we got a Uber. And we wanted some lunch, so we got some sushi. And this pizza was spicy because it had jalapenos on it. And then she went to an op shop and she goes, I got this great top. It's a Tommy Hilfiger. And she keeps saying Tommy Hilfiger. And I'm like, Mum, what is this Tommy Hilfiger? He'll finger you on a hill? Or, hey, Tommy, he'll finger you. I don't know. Could be a great guy. But the reason she's going to an op shop regularly is that I've got one sister here, actually, I like to say. Do have one family member, thanks for coming, Jane. My other sister, Kathy, and I, we convinced Mum, because she just loves to shop, and we thought we'll do it. We won't do the no spend challenge this year. We won't buy anything brand new, so that's why Mum's op shopping. But she did find her a way around it. She was in a shop with her friend Leonie, and she wanted this dress, a brand new dress, so she got Leonie to buy it, and then she bought it off Leonie full price. And she said, well, it was second hand. I'm just going to finish with a story that I always think of Grace when I do this story, because we were driving to Evans Head quite a few years ago for a gig that Vanessa was putting on at the RSL club there, and I said to her, weird things always happen to me when I go to McDonald's, and she's like, tell that story. And I said, no, because I like to take a while to get organised with my stories. But all right, so there was 5 people there, and they liked it, and we think. Anyway, so, and I've been sort of telling it in different variations ever since. So when especially when I started doing comedy, like, I would get too nervous to eat beforehand, and the gigs were quite late at night, and then I'd be really hungry after, so I just get something to tide me over at McDonald's on the way home, like a large chocolate shake to go with my quarter-pounder meal, and some nuggets. I mean, it's cheaper to buy 40, and maybe just, I'm a McFlurry to wash it all down. Anyway, because it's quite nerve-wracking up here, and I'm an introvert, and so, especially if no one's laughing, you've got to fill that shit up with something that tastes good at the time. And I couldn't go into McDonald's because then I'd be like, judging everyone for being kind of unhealthy and pasty, and then I thought I was talking about myself. So I go through the drive-through to hide my shame, and but weird things always happen, and I think it started, I placed this order once to this young woman, and she said, can you please park in Bay 1? And so I accidentally parked in Bay 2, and she came over and she gave me my food, and she said, just for next time, if we asked you to park in Bay 1, can you please park in Bay 1? And I said, well, there won't be a next time. And I wound up the window, and I went over that little hump thing, and I stalled my car, and I went out the wrong exit, and she knew just as much as me that there was going to be a next time. And then another time I went, and I went to the first window, because sometimes they don't tell you what to do next. And I placed my order, and I said, do I stay here? And she said, this is not a hotel, ma'am. God, it's like McDonald's humour. I'm like being ridiculed at McDonald's. And then the worst one happened to me. It was actually at Ballina McDonald's. So I was going through, and there's 2 drive-thrus there, and that's anxiety-ridden enough. Like, you've got to choose. It's quite quick, you've got to choose which drive-thru. And I chose my drive-thru, and I'm placing my order, and I'm like, can I have... I know you like that bit, Vanessa. I'm placing my order. Oh, sorry. Thank you. So I'm placing my order in the drive-thru, and I'm like, can I have a large quarter-pounder meal with a chocolate shake? And they're like, that's 2 hash browns and 2 coffees. And I'm like, no, it's a large quarter-pounder meal, and there's a chocolate shake and 40. And they're like, that's $12.20. Can you drive to the first window? And I'm like, you're not listening to me. And then they said, welcome to McDonald's, can I take your order? So I was listening to that intercom, yelling into that intercom. And I drove up, I placed my order, and I went up to the first window, and the guy was just pissing himself laughing at me. And he said, did you enjoy talking to yourself? And I said, oh, that must be hilarious when everyone does that. He said, no, just you. And he said, you'll probably do it next time. And I said, well, there won't be a next time. This place is humiliating. And he said, that's what you said last night.